Imagine this for a second. You pack your bags for, let's say, an 8-day business trip. You're ready. It's a big deal. You say goodbye to your family. You think, okay, I'll be home for dinner next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. A quick trip?
A quick trip. But then something goes horribly wrong. And that 8-day trip, it turns into 8 months. Almost 9 months, actually. And you can't come home.
And you can't come home because your ride, the brand new vehicle you were promised, is just completely broken.
Exactly.
And that isn't just, a hypothetical. That was the reality for NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams during the 2024 Starliner crew flight test.
Yeah, their mission was supposed to be a shakedown cruise, right? Just fly Boeing's new capsule to the ISS, spend a week, check it out, and come right back.
A simple in and out.
Yeah.
But instead, they got stranded.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. How one deeply embarrassing technical blunder didn't just strand two elite astronauts. It spiraled into a multi-billion-dollar humiliation for Boeing and has, well, it's radically changed the future of the American space program.
It really has. We've been digging through all the reports, all the details on NASA's huge contract changes, and, maybe most importantly, the demotion of the next Starliner mission.
It's a huge story.
It left Wilmore and Williams just hanging up there, and it has put Boeing's entire commercial crew program into, frankly, a state of crisis.
Okay, let's unpack this. The fate of old space, the legacy contractors like Boeing, it really feels like it's hanging in the balance.
It is. And the immediate result of this failure is this massive, just unbridgeable gap between NASA's two main partners.
And that chasm really started to open up during that 2024 flight test. I mean, the launch went okay, which was a relief after all the delays.
Yeah, everyone breathed a sigh of relief there. But the problem started almost immediately, especially during that critical approach to the space station.
So what exactly went wrong? It wasn't software this time, was it?
No, this was hardware, pure and simple. As they were maneuvering to dock, multiple thrusters on Starliner's propulsion system just shut down.
Yeah.
Some even started leaking.
Leaking fuel, that's never good.
No, not what you want to hear in space. And for anyone following the tech, we're talking about the Service Module's OMEG thrusters, the Orbital Maneuvering and Attitude Control thrusters.
The fine-tuning jets.
Exactly. The ones you need for that delicate docking procedure. And they found that 5 out of the 28 thrusters failed because of thermal and pressure issues. The crew, to their credit, managed to get the capsule docked using backups,
but the damage was done.
The damage was done. The system was fundamentally unreliable, and NASA just lost all faith that it could perform a safe return, the deorbit burn.
So the final result, which is just, it's almost cinematic, is that the astronauts just had to stay put, grounded on the ISS.
Right. And the faulty Starliner, deemed too risky to bring them home, it came back to Earth all by itself, uncrewed, in September of 2024.
And here's the real kicker. Here is the stinging symbol of defeat. After 9 months stranded, how did they finally get home?
They had to hitch a ride.
On a SpaceX Dragon. The competitor's vehicle. I mean, you can't write a more painful, more visual illustration of where the entire industry is headed.
You really can't. And speaking of pain, let's talk about the money. Have you ever worked on a project that it just wouldn't end?
Oh, absolutely. The kind where you fix one thing and 2 new problems pop up out of nowhere.
Right. Now imagine that project is for the U.S. government and human lives are on the line. That's the financial black hole Boeing fell into.
Because they're on a fixed price contract for this, right?
Exactly. Which is great for NASA. It caps their risk. But it means every single delay, every failure, every overrun, Boeing has to pay for it out of its own pocket.
Which is a huge shift from the old cost-plus days where contractors could just bill the government for everything plus a profit.
A massive shift. The fixed price model is supposed to force efficiency. But in Starliner's case, it's just become a punishment mechanism for failure.
And the total cost of that failure.
It's staggering.
Yeah.
Since 2016, Boeing has spent more than $2 billion with a B of its own money just trying to fix Starliner.
What's fascinating here is that $2 billion expenditure just zeroes out any hope of long-term profit from this specific project. They are now in damage control.
Pure damage control.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about making money anymore. It's about trying to save their reputation in the aerospace world, even if this one project is a massive, massive loss.
And you can feel the pressure of that damage control when you compare them to SpaceX. I mean, back in 2014, NASA wanted 2 different options, redundancy.
Yeah, that was the whole point. SpaceX's Dragon and Boeing's Starliner.
But fast forward to today, and they're not even in the same league, Dragon is NASA's workhorse. It's the go-to taxi to the ISS. It's on its 12th crewed mission.
It's 12 since 2020. They're reliable, they're fast, they have a launch cadence you can actually depend on.
Meanwhile, Boeing's track record is it's a list of setbacks. The first big test failed in 2019. They had to do it again in 2022. And then the 2024 mission with the thruster failures and stranding the crew.
It's a brutal contrast. And it shows that the old too big to fail idea, it doesn't really apply in this new space race.
Not anymore. If you can't deliver a working vehicle, your history and your lobbying power just don't matter as much.
And that realization seems to have finally hit NASA at the executive level, which led to these huge contract changes announced this November. It's basically a very polite but very crushing vote of no confidence.
Let's get into the numbers. The announcement on November 24th, 2025. First, they slashed the contract value.
By a lot. $768 million.
Yeah.
Just gone. Dropped the total value down to $3.7 billion. That's money Boeing will never see, no matter how well they do from here on out.
Wow. And then the number of guaranteed flights was cut?
Yep, down from 6 missions to just 4. And the last 2 are now optional. NASA is basically saying, we're not going to fly you just because you exist. You have to earn it.
But the biggest symbolic hit, the real demotion, was what they did to the next mission, Starliner 1.
Ooh, this is the gut punch. Starliner 1 was supposed to be a 4-person crew flight targeted for April 2026.
And now
Now it's a cargo-only mission.
cargo only. They're sending it up empty.
It's the strategic equivalent of hitting a giant reset button. They're sending Starliner back to the testing phase. NASA is saying with their actions, we do not trust this vehicle with 4 human lives yet.
And that demotion, it creates this ripple effect, right? It affects the people, the astronauts who've been training for years.
It's a huge erosion of human capital. I mean, look who's been reassigned. Scott Tingle, he was supposed to command Starliner 1.
And now he's chief of the astronaut office. A big desk job.
It's a prestigious job for sure, but he is off the flight roster. He's out of the capsule.
And then you have people like Mike Finke and Kimia Yui from JXA. They spent years training on Starliner.
And now they're being sent to fly on SpaceX Crew 11, the competitor ship. NASA is prioritizing proven safety over trying to salvage Boeing's schedule.
We saw it with Luke Delaney, too, reassigned to SpaceX Crew 13. And the Canadian astronaut, Joshua Kutrick, his status is still up in the air.
It's an exodus. The entire astronaut corps is effectively relying on Dragon now. It's the primary trusted vehicle.
And that leaves Suni Williams. After everything she went through, she's basically the only active astronaut still publicly confirmed to be training on Starliner.
And that's a really troubling long-term problem for NASA.
Yeah.
If they ever get to a Starliner 2 mission, that would be her 4th time in space. She's already got over 600 days up there.
You're talking about radiation limits.
Exactly. She might start bumping up against the lifetime radiation limits for astronauts. The failure to build a pipeline of new Starliner pilots means the one person left might not even be able to fly for regulatory reasons. They've alienated their own crew pool.
Which brings us to the big question. Given all of this, the failures, the $2 billion loss, stranding astronauts, the demotion, why doesn't NASA just pull the plug? Why keep funding this?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because, yeah, on the surface, cancellation seems like the obvious move. But NASA has this deeper geopolitical fear.
A fear of what? That SpaceX has a problem.
Precisely. NASA's #1 fear is being forced to rely on Russia's Soyuz again. If SpaceX were grounded for any reason, a technical failure, a supply chain problem, geopolitical tension, NASA would have no American vehicle to get to the ISS.
So Starliner is basically a very, very expensive insurance policy.
That's the perfect way to put it. It's being kept in the game for one reason: dissimilar redundancy.
Dissimilar meaning it's built completely differently from Dragon.
Critically different. If they shared, say, the same thruster technology, a failure in one could ground both. Starliner is a totally separate architecture. It's a backup key to the space station.
But even that strategy seems strained. NASA is already booking more flights with SpaceX through 2030 just to keep the station staffed.
Right. It reinforces the idea that Starliner is just the backup, not a real competitor. Even if it eventually works, its role seems limited.
So for Boeing, the stakes are just existential now. They need to get this thing flight-proven certified, not for the NASA contract, that's already a loss, but to save their reputation for future projects.
Exactly. Things like the Orbital Reef space station. They have to prove they can deliver a safe crew capsule to be a serious player in the coming decades.
It's like that one report said, the program is too late to fail, but too tired to succeed.
That sums it up perfectly.
Yeah.
The investment is too deep to just quit, but the constant setbacks have drained all of the momentum.
Which means everything, and I mean everything, is riding on that April 2026 cargo mission.
That is the final exam. No more excuses. It has to be flawless. They have to prove definitively that the thruster problems are fixed for good.
And if it's not, if that cargo mission has more thruster issues.
I think that's the end. It would be no surprise at all if the entire project was canceled. It would be Boeing's exit from the Commercial Crew Program. For now, NASA is just being extremely cautious, focusing on certifying the system and only flying crew when it's absolutely ready.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, a failed 8-day test flight strands 2 astronauts for 9 months. It costs Boeing over $2 billion, forces NASA to slash the contract, and results in the humiliation of demoting the next mission to cargo only. Starliner is back in testing, and that April 2026 deadline couldn't be more critical for one of America's legacy aerospace giants.
That's the reality of the space race today. But we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Do you think Boeing can bounce back, or is the Starliner grounded for good?
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and share this episode. This has been Deep Dive Chronicles, signing off.